Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video I have the latest from the live radar, for the latest UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days as we've seen the hottest day of the year so far. Funnily enough, the first day of January, the hottest month of the year. Been a very hot start to July in the south and the east, but it is going to subside over the next 24 hours, and come Wednesday afternoon, temperatures are going to be around 10 or 12 degrees lower than they have been during Monday afternoon. So positive things to come if you're already hating this oppressive heat. It is still going to be warm, but it is going to be more westerly as we start the month, and we are going to see temperatures still maybe in the mid to high 20s at times, but most are going to see increased rain, stronger winds, more cloud, and just generally more of a mixed feel. However, as we'll see from the longer range charts, there are possibilities that we could go hot once again as we head into the middle portion of the month. Another sort of rise within the ensembles is starting to appear, so I wouldn't be surprised in the next couple of days confidence increases of the prospects of another spike in heat into the middle of the month. At the moment, it does look like it might not be as hot as it is right now, but it could be more sustained. That's what we're seeing from the runs. That's something that we'll have to clarify nearer the time. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see with the dividing line between the very hot air and the cool Atlantic air is this rain band, which for most is now just some thicker cloud. The far southeast, though, it's been ridiculously oppressive this afternoon. Not only temperatures up towards the mid-30s, but very high humidity with dew points nearing 20 degrees as well. So not only are those temperatures very high, but it's very difficult to cool down with all of that moisture in the air. Been, as I said, really quite horrible. I've gotten this close to 9 p.m. now. It's been just way too hot to get this done earlier in the day. And you can see still across that far southeast corner, especially across London in that urban heat island, it is hot still, high 20s, if not maybe 30 degrees in some inner parts of London. But you can see the fresher air is to our north and west, and it is coming. As I have said over the past few days, and as we've seen from a lot of the major weather outlooks as well, BBC Weather, Met Office and stuff, we are actually on the peripheries of this heat wave. This isn't strictly a UK heat wave. This is mainly a European or mainland Europe heat wave, and it's just extended to us for a couple of days. So if we think we've got it bad, parts of France, Belgium, Netherlands and Germany have got it a lot worse, as we are just on the northern and western edge of this big heat dome that has developed. Parts of Paris still in the mid-30s this evening. And here, it is going to continue over the next couple of days, but as I said, subsiding across the UK. Now, if you look at the top temperatures today, over and at by 31 to 34 degrees, quite widely today. Again, locally I've seen reports of up to 35, maybe we'll find around a 36 when everything's all said and done. But at the moment, 34 degrees in Southend being the peak of the heat. It's quite interesting right along the sea, just shows you the wind direction isn't coming in off the sea, not really got many sea breezes around, and that's why it feels so hot as all of that heat builds in that southern and eastern corner. If we actually look at the latest temperatures, you can see as of 8 p.m, hottest temperatures are still in the upper 20s and 30 degrees in Heathrow. So still very, very hot this evening. Now, if you go over to the latest UKV, you can see all of that heat still in the southeast, but it's slowly clearing away into Wednesday. A little bit of rain and some thicker cloud during the morning in the far southeast, and that could hopefully clear all that heat and humidity away. And by the afternoon, dew points are close to 20 degrees cooler, down towards the low single digits, so much, much fresher out there into Wednesday afternoon. Temperatures might still be mid-20s in a few spots, but it's a much cooler mid-20s with less humidity. This continues through Thursday into Friday as well, where there is more rain, and even for southern areas, some heavy rain at times as well. So a much, much more unsettled rest of the week, and you can see even some heavy rain and thundery rain moving in there into the weekend. Now, to look at the max temperatures as we head through Tuesday evening, you can see still mid-30s in some spots, but slowly into Wednesday, it's very hot overnight, going to be poor sleeping, but the temperatures will drop continually through the morning and not going to rise much above 24, 25 degrees come tomorrow afternoon, so around a 10 to 12 degree temperature drop in many areas. Much cooler nights, down towards 10 to 14 degrees, actually pretty chilly into Thursday, and repetitive there through the rest of the week. Mid-20s, maybe 27, 28 in a few spots, but generally a much, much fresher feel for the rest of the week. And of course, as we saw, some heavy rain around as well. But, as I said, so we suspect that there could be some more heat on the way, and this is not going to be it for the summer. Of course, we are only 1/3 of the way through, so we should expect some more heat, but it could be coming right around the corner from the looks of some of these runs. Westerly flow during the rest of this week, but slowly what happens during the middle of the month, high pressure builds across Europe once again, and it could extend back over the top of us. And here comes the 17th of July, we're already building another heat dome across Europe, and again we are on the peripheries of this heat dome. You can see it, this big blob of red and pink there. You can see it's pretty similar to at the moment, a little bit more elongated at the moment as it's slowly getting shoved away, but very similar, sat right over mainland France. And yeah, temperatures could be as high, if not higher than they are now, and that is simply because we are later on in the summer. During the peak summer months, the air masses are slightly hotter, the surface temperatures are even hotter, ground temperatures are hotter, and it probably will be drier leading up to this if we do see some more warm, dry conditions in the days and weeks leading up to this. So potentially for something even hotter here into the middle portion of July. We are seeing strong potential within the ensembles, as we'll see in a few moments' time. Do check out the latest GM, broadly very similar. Westerly flow throughout the rest of this week. And then eventually towards the middle of the month, we are starting to see that pressure build across the near continent, and you can see that heat starting to develop across France. At the moment here, though, we are just about avoiding it as the high pressure is not quite extending into the UK, but a very subtle shift. This weather front clears, and yes, we could go very hot, very similar to the GFS. And finally, if we compare it to the latest ECMWF that's just come out, again, westerly throughout the rest of this week, potentially even some quite unsettled weather next week with a bit of a northerly flow for a time. But again, out to day 10, the heat starts to build back across mainland Europe, and we would start to see that extend our way. It's not too hot at day 10 here, but the high pressure is building in, and we'd expect the heat to follow in the subsequent days. We can see all this on the latest ensembles, the latest midday run. You can see very hot at the moment, but dropping away to below average come Wednesday evening, looking much, much fresher and much more tolerable there throughout the rest of this week. So expect it to be much more sort of pleasant conditions throughout the rest of the week. Still some sunshine, still some warm weather, 28 degrees possible as we saw on Thursday or Friday. But you can see a bit of rain around, a bit of cloud, and just generally fresher feel. However, you can start to see that incline within the ensembles, and then it's around that 12th, 13th onwards we start to see some warm or hot ensembles returning. Quite a few low to mid-teens, so around 5, 6, 7 degrees above average. So we'll be looking at high 20s, maybe touching 30s, and then you've got those ones above the 15 degree isotherm up towards the 20 degree isotherm, which would threaten those low 30s or mid 30s. So at the moment, no guarantees it's going to be as hot as it's been the last couple of days, but definitely a bigger cluster warming back up there for the middle of July, and precipitation dropping as well. If we look at the 2 meter temperatures, big drop in the next 24 hours, so hovering around the low to mid 20s, and then another rise and a big upwards curve there towards the 30 degree mark again there into the middle portion of July. And if we look at the dew points as well, look how high they are at the moment, up towards the high teens, dropping away close to freezing in the next 24 hours, and much, much fresher. Going to really feel that difference. And then still humid into this week, but more towards the low teens than the high teens like we've seen at the moment. And finally, if we compare it to the latest ECMWF, the midnight run, broadly similar, big drop in the next 24 hours, and then hovering around average, not as big of a rise there into mid-July, but a little bit of a rise there. It's maybe 4 or 5 degrees above average. Nothing too dominant, not too many runs that are going very hot, but there are some. So it's something we've got to keep a very close eye on. So the risk definitely there from the GFS and some rumblings from the GEM and the ECMWF that the heat dome is going to disappear for the next week and then potentially return as we head into the middle of the month, and it could be a little bit more sustained than we've seen at the moment. It's only been 3 or 4 days of intense heat. Could be a little bit more sustained there into July. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.